moving on a stage. We are moving on to 1918, and this is a period when trench warfare has stopped. Everybody thinks about the First World War as a constant stalemate on the Western Front, but in fact, in March 1918, the German army launches Kaiserschlacht, the Kaiser's battle, their last chance offensive, knock the British army out of the war, drive a wedge between us and our French allies, and effectively it's their last chance to win the war on the Western Front. It doesn't work. We are driven back a long way. We lose a lot of territory. But it's halted in early August at the Battle of Amiens, and then from then on the German army is in retreat. We're pushing them back across the old battlefields of the Somme, Arras and Ypres. The German army is staging a fighting retreat though. They're fighting for every inch of land. They've taken a battery, but they are still fighting to retain the territory they have fought over. Now behind me you can see there are German soldiers who have taken up position. They are in sandbagged emplacement. Imagine this is a bit of a ruined battlefield, old trench systems, rusty barbed wire, things like that, somewhere like the Somme. And the British army is pushing forward. And you can see British infantry, cavalry, sometimes assisted by tanks, pushing forward, trying to drive the German army back towards Germany, and to secure the lines of communication so we can actually get forward. Now, a lot has happened since 1914. The basic unit, the infantry section, 8 guys. Back at the start, it's 8 guys with rifles and bayonets. Now there's a lot more firepower. There are things like Lewis guns, lots of grenades. And the German army have been developing Sturmtruppen tactics. Fast-moving, aggressive, heavily armed, small groups of soldiers going forward. Now this is where these are going to come head-to-head. Contact front. British infantry under fire, coming forward, taking cover. A German artillery battery, the 77mm battery, has come in, and they are firing from about a kilometre away, just about over open sights, dropping a few rounds in, either HE or shrapnel. German soldiers, the Lancer, are shifting position. They are taking possession of that eminence, that high ground, giving better arc of fire. And now it's a bit of a stalemate. It's a firefight. We can't go forward, so what we're going to have to try and do is flank that German position, drive them out of it. We have some assistance. You can see over on the far side of the arena, we have a British Mark IV tank just trundling in. It is not original. The originals are over 100 years old, they're very fragile, so we can't unfortunately run them anymore. If any of you have seen the film Warhorse, you've seen that tank, because it's a very good replica that was built by Steven Spielberg for Warhorse. It's a British Mark IV. It's a male, so armed with twin 6-pounder guns, one each side, and then secondary armament in the form of Hotchkiss guns, machine guns, one on either sponson and one up at the front. The reason it's got those red and white stripes on is because this is a period when the German army had actually captured a number of British tanks. They were using them against us. So from the period of Amiens onwards, 1918, we put those markings on to distinguish British tanks from Beuterpanzer, captured British tanks used by the German army. Coming forward, British artillery dropping in now. There is a 13-pounder battery of Royal Horse Artillery, again wheeled in, just behind us, firing over open sights, dropping a few rounds in. The tank is manoeuvring for position. Now think about what it must be like to be a German soldier on foot with a rifle facing a tank. Initially, the first time they were used on the Somme, they were thought to be utterly terrifying, steel monsters. One German NCO lost his nerve, ran off down the trench shouting, there's a crocodile coming, there's a crocodile coming. They've never seen anything like it before. Problem with tanks of the period, they're not like tanks of today. That's not a fast-moving, hard-hitting weapon of exploitation. That's not a Challenger 2. It moves on the road at about 4 miles an hour. Off the road, it's about 2. So it's walking pace. But that's not a problem, because what it's doing here is moving in front of the infantry. The infantry are going to form up behind the tank and use it as a big metal shield, while the tank uses its armour to suppress the opposition. German army firing back with rifles and also with an MG08 machine gun. That is basically a Maxim design, pretty well the same as the British Vickers gun lots away. It's got a rate of fire 450 rounds a minute. It is not going to make much impact on that tank. It's deadly against infantry. It'll scythe you down. But tank armour, those rounds are going to bounce off. They did experiment with a type of armour-piercing round, the SMK, the Spitzmitkern, but that's, again, the Mark IV. It's got better armour, it's not going to be that effective. Now, over on the other side, we're not the only people with tanks. There's a German A7V Sturmpanzerwagen moving in. And this is an extraordinary monster. Absolutely massive. 18-man crew. 5.7 Nordenfelt gun sticking out front. And then an absolute panoply of machine guns. They were really not very good. The Germans didn't really believe in tanks. They only built about 20 of these things. And von Ludendorff expressed the opinion, well, they're probably no use, but we'll use them anyway. Its main problem, apart from the fact it's slow, is they were a bit unstable. If you get that onto rough ground, it's got a tendency to fall over. Not an ideal tank characteristic if you think about it. A7V has stopped. I think that Mark IV is going to have to take care of the A7V. There was a duel between a Mark IV and 3 A7Vs, and there we go, there's a hit on the A7V. That armour is bulletproof, but it certainly won't stop the 6-pound shell. So the A7V is knocked out. That German machine gunner is still firing. More artillery is knocking in. Tank is firing, knocked out the machine gun. More artillery. British Army doing an advance to contact, and it looks as though we've knocked the fight out of the Lancer. Hands up. The Lewis gun in the tank still firing, but that German position is taken. The way is cleared. We can push on. Now there's one last element to this display. It's an original vehicle. Over there, just coming on, is a Liberty truck. Now that truck is over 100 years old. That's a First World War original. Built in the USA. It's not exactly fast. It's got a maximum speed of about 15 miles an hour on the road. But depending on the type of bed it has, it can carry either 2.5 or 5 tons of supplies. So it's an excellent logistic vehicle. One of the things that people don't realise about the British Army in the First World War, we were the most mechanised in the world. An awful lot of our horse-drawn transport has been replaced by motor lorries and tenders. On this occasion, the Liberty truck, they built about 9,000 of them, is coming around, and the British soldiers, just for once, they don't have to walk home. They're going to get a lift. Believe me, that is extremely welcome. German army has been disarmed. They're just carrying their weapons off, and the British soldiers are filing up onto the Liberty truck. Now, as I said, the 2 tanks you've seen are replicas, but that is an original vehicle. That is worth seeing. When displays are finished, do go over to the living history display and you'll be able to see the Liberty truck. There's also a replica with it, which is, again, very much worth seeing. British medium tank. Right, the rain is starting to come in. I can see umbrellas coming up. Thank you very much for watching. We have lots more to show you as the day goes on. So I am going to make my way off and hand back over to Steve Bully. Thank you very much.
Big round of applause for Chris Compson. If you recognise the voice, you've no doubt seen him already on the big screens across the morning so far this morning as we've been showing some of the videos. Chris is the star of our YouTube channel. About 800,000 people at the moment subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can see nearly 600 bits of content on the YouTube channel. Just by going to our Tank Museum YouTube page. So much more coming on. Now I know we keep saying it, and I'm really sorry to sound like a broken record, but we do believe, we've just checked the radar forecast. This is the last bit of rain that we're expecting to have, and after this it's going to be clearing up, and it's going to be a nice day for the rest of Tankfest. If you do though want to get out of the rain, don't forget you can pop into the Vehicle Conservation Centre. There's lots to see and do in there, and also nip into the Tank Museum itself and see some of the latest and new exhibitions that we have in there, which include World War II, the war stories, and also Tanks for the Memories, which is tanks in popular culture. Give them a wave as they go past. Of course, you can catch up with the reenactors, and you can see some of the vehicles in the reenactment area and also in the tank park during its opening times. You'll find those in the rear of the programme. If you haven't got your programme yet, you can get those from inside the Tank Museum and also at the Friends of Tank Museum gazebo, which is just outside the main entrance. So as we just clear the main arena and get ready for our next big display, which is going to be the evolution of British armour, which will be coming up at around 11:25. Just to let you know that we decided to run a series of video clips. We were talking about this in the office, and we thought, what can we do that's a little bit light-hearted? As you've already noticed, that sort of sums me up in a couple of words. So we are going to run a series of videos on the big screens around silly tanks. It's our Silly Tanks series. You will enjoy each and every one as we try and make silly tanks look less silly. And we're going to start off with a great video that should make you smile, and that is our Silly Tanks Sentinel video.
This rather peculiar looking tank is the AC-1 Sentinel, Australia's very first tank. It was built during World War II at a time when Australia thought a Japanese invasion was likely. Australia was hoping that British or American armour could be sent for them to crew, but this wasn't a certainty and would take a long time to ship. So the Australians took it upon themselves to make their own tanks, the first of which would be finished in 1942. It was a huge undertaking and required entire factories being constructed for the sole purpose of tank production. As Australia had next to no tank making experience and had a limited automotive industry, this would be a challenge. Although their experience in making locomotives would definitely help. They also took some guidance from the French, mostly regarding suspension and engine layout. They also took some inspiration from the drivetrain used in the American M3 Lee, but modified so they could be made from materials accessible within Australia. But aside from these words of wisdom, the Sentinel was 100% Australian made. The Sentinel was a very unique vehicle. It was the first tank in the world to be made of a single-piece cast hull. The AC-1, or Australian Cruiser 1, was very impressive. The Sentinel was powered by 3 Cadillac V8 engines positioned around a drive shaft in a cloverleaf formation.